WIX Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing WIX's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of SERP's Up Live. This is the live Brighton SEO Spring 2024 edition of the SERP's Up podcast. I'm going to be joined by some incredible guests who you can see on my left and right for the people who are here. And also members of the audience, we have some paddles there for you, which are basically for like a little bit of interaction. So one side, green is yes. Purple is no. So if there's any questions, basically you're like, I agree, I do not agree. Then please make yourselves heard. We found this to be a little bit of fun, so we hope you enjoy it as well. I'm gonna get started by introducing my fantastic panelists, who I have harangued to join me today. So first, we're going to be introducing Mr. Where is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? Are you doing it? There we go. Okay. So our first up, all the way over on my left, is Mr. Barry Adams, the founder of award-winning agency Polemic Digital. And he specializes he's a specialist SEO consultant for news publishers, focusing on technical SEO, editorial SEO. His clients include many, many publishers, including the New York Times, The Independent, lots of other folks as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Barry.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Barry may or may not swear. So if you are sensitive to such things, I'm just going to warn you there now. So yeah, thank you for that. Hello. Hi there, David Bain. Welcome. Lots of other people as well. And so our next person that I'm going to be introducing is the incredible Carmen Dominguez, who is joining us from Hallam Digital. She is the head of organic at Hallam. I first met her at the Hallam Organic event, which was a great event that took place in Nottingham, and it was a warm day.
We had free ice cream though.
It was delightful and very well received. And it was lovely to have her there. And she spoke about some great stuff. And so I thought if we could get Carmen along, that'd be lovely. She has worked for agencies. She's worked in-house and led a team of many people. And you've built a team.
23 last year and 15 this year.
Right.
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly. So she's got great experience in-house and also working agency side. And she's going to be sharing her insights as well. Thank you, Carmen, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here today.
Thank you. And next up is Sukh Singh, who is from I Do SEO, and I've met him at Brighton SEO a few times over the last few years, and I was really excited to get Sukh along for this session because Sukh has a great perspective from having worked as the head of SEO at an agency for many, many years, and now working freelance, working with agency partners and other clients as well. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us, Sukh.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Awesome to be here.
Thank you. And finally, on my left is the amazing Grace Froelich, a fellow Californian. And she is joining us from Brain Labs, where she works as an SEO consultant and is managing clients and managing lots of different projects and has both project management experience and also SEO experience, and is a fantastic speaker and a big fan of The Parent Trap as well. And we're really pleased to have you here today, Grace.
Oh, I guess it wasn't on. Thank you. Well, I'm excited. Looking forward to this.
Cool. Wonderful. And then finally, it's me. My name is Crystal Carter. I am the head of SEO communications at WIX. I am currently working there, but I have a lot of experience working in agencies, working alongside agencies, working across teams, and I hope to be able to share those insights. And finally, there is y'all good selves, the folks here for Brighton SEO. Thank you so much for joining us and for making the trek, because I timed it and it's about 5 minutes walk from the front door. So we appreciate you. And we appreciate you getting your steps in today to join us. If you are not familiar with the SERP's Up podcast, and I thank you for taking that leap of faith and joining us here, The SERPs Up podcast comes out every Wednesday. We get some fantastic speakers. Barry's contributed. Grace has contributed. We've had lots of people contribute as well, some of the people in this room. And yeah, check it out every Wednesday. We have over 80 episodes now. So if you are a fan of podcasts, go and check out the archive. So the topic that we are covering today is SEO as a team sport. And when I say that, I do not mean this kind of team, though, bless the team from Screaming Frog for showing up for cardiovascular exercise with the annual charity Brighton SEO football match. They did a great job there. But we're more thinking about the way that marketing has become so spread out and includes so many different disciplines and so many different specialisms, even within SEO. So you have a space where somebody says, oh, you're the SEO. You must know every single thing about image SEO, or you must know every single thing about international SEO or Google Merchant Center or local SEO and things. And it's very, very, it can be very, very fractional and very, very specific. And so I think that SEO, certainly from my perspective, has become a little bit more of a team sport. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that works and what that means for us. So on the podcast, we have different sections. One of the sections that we do is a section called Deep Thoughts. Thank you. So when we have Deep Thoughts, one of the things we think about is the way that Google is progressing. And essentially, just on this sort of slide. So for instance, if you were to think about, the way Google is progressing, I'm sure you've all seen this. That it's not just that you have, plain blue links or, one sort of SERP experience, but that you have SERP experience that includes lots of different channels, particularly for your organic stuff. So you have your YouTube, you'll also have the social that will show on the SERP. You might also have products, and even on the products, they'll have lots of different pages that show up within that. And then everyone's favorite SEO feature is Reddit. So Reddit is showing up in lots of different ways as well. And this is an evolution of Google. And I would like to ask my illustrious panelists, because I've spoken enough now, how has the way that you collaborate across channels evolved as Google has become much more diversified in its SERP? As we see more and more of these SERP features, how has the way that you collaborate across channels, across teams changed?
Grace, you look like you wanted to jump in. Oh, did I? Okay. Well, I actually first want to know from the audience, how many of you already have SEO plus paid or other channel collaboration currently? Green if yes.
So there's paddles.
Purple with no. Oh, a lot of green.
That is coming about for the listening audience. That's coming up about 80% yes. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great to see, because we really should be working at least with the paid channel already. Google, it's one SERP, one. Well, it's two channels, but we should be already collaborating with paid at least, if not more channels.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that for users, certainly, they don't even always know whether or not it's paid. And they sometimes can't even tell the difference. So, if you're trying to connect with the users and you're trying to connect with the user journey, that should certainly be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the little label that's like barely noticeable now. I remember when it was like very, very obvious in the SERP that, oh, you're clicking an ad. But now it's like, a lot of users don't really know what they're clicking on.
I miss the days of a yellow background on the ads.
And I think certainly with like product images, it can be sometimes difficult to tell whether or not it's an ad or whether or not it's organic. Do you find that across your teams that you're working in paid and organic as well?
Absolutely. And I think one of the impacts of not working together, particularly in brand campaigns, is that if PPC is not working, or paid in this case, is not working with organic, they don't understand the impact of putting a little bit more budget in brand will have in the conversions of organic.
Right.
So it's not only for the clients and the users, it's also for when you are reporting to your client.
Yeah.
It's also of your work. If you don't collaborate with paid enough, you can maybe put a lot of effort in organic that in the end doesn't yield the results.
Right.
Because paid is doing whatever they want on their own. So it's not only within paid and organic, it's also within all the different sub-channels that there is in organic, like images or the SERPs, the snippets. and it's also within the different type of paid and the different types of organic, which I'll want to talk a little bit more about it before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I was thinking about in terms of the algorithm changes in the last few years, I think that's forced people to be a bit more multi-channel, at least in their thought. And I was thinking of actually promoting Grace's blog post from 3 years ago, T-shaped marketer being like, so the T being, having depth or knowledge in, say, SEO, for example, being an SEO consultant, but also touching on paid search, paid social, PR, etc., and recognizing the opportunities to pull in additional traffic where you see, there's a more opportunity for paid rather than organic for these keywords. It might take a bit longer to rank, etc. So that together with the algorithm thing and an agency environment, I guess it just comes, that collaboration comes naturally, I think.
And do you find that it also has to do with skills, like different skill set? Because I certainly know that, we're now within the organic side really having to think much more about like LLMs and AI and how that all works. But paid have been working with AI and, this ad has to learn, it's machine learning and you just wait for days while it spends money and you have no idea how. People have been working on that for years. And so I feel like a lot of the skills that people have acquired during the paid space can translate more into how we think about organic as well.
I think it's also the other way around. It plays for both. So I wanted to talk a little bit about skills as well within organic. Like you cannot have the same person, for example, doing tech than is doing content, even though both need to know a little bit about each other. It's a little bit the same with paid, right? If paid doesn't understand it, for example, it is purely organic, but it is based on how the user engage with your content. So it should also be applicable for paid in the same way that, for example, paid talk about CTR should also be applicable for organic. So in the end, we're talking about getting so many skills with one person to be successful, and it's impossible, which actually goes very well into the conversation that we're talking, that specializing within a specialization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you're thinking about channels and we think about, where to specialize in things, which channels do you find are most helpful for growing clients? We've talked a little bit about paid, but are we finding that like digital PR, for instance, is helping with a lot of things, or are we finding that other elements are helping clients to grow at the moment?
I think it's going to be social with SEO.
Interesting. Why do you think that?
Well, yeah, I don't have the definitive proof, but from like talking with clients and talking cross-channelly, and like strategists within my agency, it's just one of those trends that keeps popping up over and over. Like getting more organic traffic through social.
Right. I think also there's a question of like with it, you're trying to connect with users. And users are on social, and also that with the social thing, you get both visibility and you also get clicks, links, etc.
Yeah.
And so there's a potential there.
I think it's not even one specific channel. When I look at how my clients grow their audiences, I work primarily with news publishers. It's all about original reporting and quality of reporting. The news websites that report the news that other websites have first reported are the ones that tend to lose out. Whereas if you're a news publisher that invested in quality investigative journalism and original reporting, you tend to win in the long run. And I think that translates to a lot of other companies as well. If you have like a drop shipping e-commerce website, you should have low expectations of long-term success,
right?
Because you're just another middleman. Whereas if you have an original product, you're an original manufacturer or original brand, I think you're probably looking at a healthier future. And I think that's fairly channel independent, be that paid or social or search or email. I think you can always find channels to sort of min-max your growth within the confines of your business. But if your business isn't inherently sound and you don't have a strong brand, I think you should probably change your business.
So you think that originality is still cutting through in terms of growth?
I see that more and more. I think that's also something that search engines like Google and also organic platforms like Facebook and Instagram, they want to reward originality. They want to reward authenticity. It's hard to do that algorithmically because it's very much engagement based, and you can sort of manipulate engagement figures. But I think they are trying to find ways to measure that and improve that algorithmically so that original brands and quality brands surface more and more, because they realize that's also what the audience wants. The audience wants quality brands and original content, and not just rehashed stuff that other websites have done before and maybe worse or better.
Yeah.
And I think in the space of LLMs, I think it's even more important to be unique in that space in order to see growth. Ed, I don't know if you all wanted to add anything more.
I was thinking about EEAT bolstering social as well, or social bolstering EEAT. So the experience and authority of the authors and the website as well, and seeing that engagement on social, and also with social being a good research tool. I just saw his name's blanking me now. I'm going to have to...
Stephen Bartlett, he's on all the socials.
SEO talk about an hour ago on using TikTok for keyword research in terms of topical research. And then even if the resulting keywords have zero search volume, he did a case study where he still used those keywords and saw an uptick in Search Console data, in impressions and click-throughs, etc., even with search volume zero keywords.
Yeah.
So it's a good tool for that.
I'm sorry, no, I was going to say that I think in the end everything is related, right? If you have a good brand, probably you're going to be all over social. And if you are all over social, your users are going to be engaging with you and they're going to end up going back to your website. So I think the whole point of change is not specific areas. It's actually looking at the overall. So we have a good brand. We have to showcase it in every single possible channel. And that is what is going to make you successful. And on that, what you were saying, I also recently did a test on particularly TikTok and Instagram with one of my e-commerce clients. And actually getting lots of links coming from TikTok made all the people clicking on my products, and my products now rank, even though I don't have no longer people coming from TikTok, just because the clicks made Google to recognize my product. So it does have an impact being in social. But also my brand now is much better recognized in TikTok as well because of that. So people come from brand much often. So I think it's all related into making sure that we do all an organic strategy where we look at all the different channels all at once, rather than just single point in different areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that flows in next to our next sort of session where we're talking about team evolution. So if you're in a space where you are finding, for instance, that TikTok is a really good channel for your brand, or that you're getting good traffic from Instagram, for instance, how are you thinking about which skills, how are you thinking about how you're connecting with your team and how you need to evolve your team in order to sit alongside those channels? Are you thinking that you need to maybe get another social media person, or maybe work alongside a social media person, or are you thinking that one person needs to suddenly become an SEO and a social media?
And it's super difficult, actually. And one of the things I have done with my team recently is change the whole structure of it, right? So in agency, normally we're used to having one SEO person, one technical SEO person, content, digital PR, and they all work in silos, even though they work toward the same objective. For me, what I have done is try to make sure that everyone has the basic SEO knowledge of everything, but then they specialize farther away. But they work together in squads, which actually every week they're like, okay, I found this issue in the technical SEO that might have an impact in content. I'm not an expert in content person, tell me what you think. And then the content person also knows about it, who collaborates with the social media person to try to elevate it. And then social media also communicates. It's way harder because it means that you need to be upskilling constantly, right? You cannot just know one thing and that's it. And it means that collaboration needs to be tighter, which is very difficult, particularly if you work remote. So because Google is changing so fast and the SERPs are changing so fast, you need to change as fast. But humans, we are slower, right? So it is difficult. I think we need to change a lot how we collaborate as teams, and we need to forget about silos. How do we do that become a reality is another thing. And I'm not sure how you feel.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. So I was working in an agency up until a year and a half ago. And at that time, we did try to bring in processes and loads of opportunities to have these collaborative conversations. And as a freelancer now, I can attest to how easy it was to upskill and have that comms in an agency versus now. Like I spend way more time reading and stuff, which is great because there's lots more podcasts like this now. But also you have to work harder as a freelancer to collaborate. But if you're in an agency where you have a team, you've got that immediacy there, which is great. But then what I struggled with was the same thing with you with communication. So creating enough opportunities like team huddles and all this stuff, but also kind of incentivizing it and kind of saying, okay, what are our shared KPIs and how can we help you guys and vice versa? And just kind of getting them bought into the other channels outside of SEO and getting them bought into the multi-channel collaboration, or how it contributes to the global KPIs and the SEO and vice versa. So yeah, I can't quite explain it. I used slides at the time and all this stuff, but basically just getting them bought in and having way more meetings and then finding out what's the important KPIs to them and what motivates them and getting collaboration that way.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I agree with both of you, actually. I actually spoke about this in the Women in Tech SEO conference in March about cross-channel with paid, how to get paid in SEO to work together. So if you want to check that out, I think that can be a transferable kind of a process that I talked about. But yeah, everything you just said, getting to know like their challenges for the other channel, getting to know what their goals are and KPIs, and kind of aligning with like regular meetings. Of course, easier said than done. I can attest to that. But yeah, a lot of it, and also don't underestimate like building a relationship with the other channel, the people. You know, there's people behind these channels, so that's also really important.
And I think, can I just questions from the audience? So if you've seen the little paddles, so green is yes, and purple, it's like purpley blue, is no. Or do you find that you're collaborating with more people who are working outside of your core channel? Yes for green, or purple for no. Wow, I have 100% green, y'all. That's 100% yes. I think that's really fascinating, and I think that's really, really good to see, especially in you know, the dynamic SERP space that we're working in. Barry, you're working with a lot of clients who are working, like, you know, we were talking earlier about the Mail, for instance, and they are huge on social. They're huge on lots of different channels. How are you finding, because we're talking about ways that people communicate, how do you find that you keep in the loop, or like keep connected between like what's happening on the different spaces?
I'll be totally honest, most of my clients engage me for a very small specific role, and I personally haven't worked in a team for over 10 years. I mean, just me and the voices in my head, freelance. But I do find it very interesting how it's evolved in who hires me and in the context that they hire me. Where previously, when I came in the early stages of my freelance career, I was sort of like the SEO guy, and everything SEO related, I had to sort of take that by the scruff of the neck for that client and do it. Whereas now, a lot of them have very detailed in-house capabilities. They have good editorial SEOs, for example, and they have good technical people who have some SEO knowledge. So when they engage with a freelancer like myself, it's a much more specific skill set, a specific project that they need, that they don't have or don't want to develop in-house. And for me, that shows how far the industry has already come and how far the specialties with the industry have already come. Especially in news where I work, you have people who are very, very good at, for example, the editorial side of SEO, optimizing articles and site structures. But the technical side is something that they probably don't need hardcore internal capabilities for, when you can just once every year or 2 years get an outsider in to sort of do a sanity check on your website. And that shows to me that, you know, they already have the defined roles. It's not enough to be an SEO anymore. You need to be a specific type of SEO.
Right.
As your career progresses in SEO, you'll, again, the concept of the T-shaped marketer, you even have a T-shape within the T-shape, where it becomes a much more narrow T. When I started doing this, I'm old enough to remember when the job title was webmaster. I had a job title for a while, and you did everything. You did email, you did social, you did search, you did the whole thing. And then I picked one specialty, SEO, and now within SEO, it became technical, and within there, it's now news SEO. So, you know, I think that's where, if you want your career to develop, you sort of have to hang your coat on a specific skill set and discipline. That doesn't mean that's always going to be your career, because there's overlaps with other channels and other capabilities that you can develop. I mean, you know, fortunately, search is not going to die anytime soon, no matter how often SEO has been proclaimed deceased. It's still alive and kicking and growing. But I think, you know, you sort of have to find out what you like doing, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and say, right, let's go and try and make this work. Let's become a great analytical SEO or a great tech SEO or a great editorial SEO. And there will always be roles within those specialties that really work for you.
Absolutely. And I think that within that space, there's always devs. No matter what kind of thing, there's always devs. And when we're thinking about this, because I feel like I don't know, maybe this is just me in my little silo, but I feel like devs are devs and they do deving. And so do you have to explain to them, when you're having conversations with devs that are taking into account like multi-channel traffic, multi-channel dependencies, for instance, are you finding that those conversations are changing, that you need to like give them more context about like this is a landing page not just for SEO, this is a landing page for somebody who's coming from TikTok or like that sort of thing? Are you finding that you're having this conversation?
I'm finding that we have to explain to devs less of the importance of SEO, because I think more and more, at least clients, they have a foundational understanding of what it is. So because those clients are like the C-suite and the upper management, they give the devs, okay, these are your goals, your KPIs. And a lot of times they align with SEO KPIs. So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, when you asked that question, I was thinking when I said I haven't been in SEO as long as Barry has been, but I remember when I started writing content for websites, it was an eternal fight, constantly fighting. And now, most of the time when you talk to devs, they know that there are certain things that they cannot do. They know that there are SEO areas that they shouldn't be take so personally when they get feedback on. And I'm enjoying very much working with devs recently. Once you are able to understand the basics, I think the key is being able to communicate what you're doing, the changes and what you need to do, and what's the point of a website. It's not just to be there. Once you explain that and you create relationship, because that's very important, I think it's particularly easy, or I think I found in recent times, it's easier to work with them.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to second that, because I started in 2009, so with SEO and working with devs at that point, and I guess fair play on their side, they didn't really know the impact or the value. It wasn't part of their roadmap or KPIs or anything, so I kind of learned from that point how to kind of get to know them. I guess it comes back to relationship building, and I guess sounds a bit wishy-washy, but emotional intelligence, like trying to figure out, okay, what really motivates you, trying to like figure out the body language. Oh, they didn't like that request, or at the start of my career, I'd have to create a standards document, like literally on paper, and grade their websites, brand new website. So as a website division of my first agency, and then I put it on their desk. And then so immediately they're being, oh yeah, cool. And then they just like, whatever. And so you're immediately not their favorite person. And I had to find myself to kind of ingratiate myself to them, go to the pub, whatever, thing, but also figure out, okay, how can I get my stuff signed off and kind of relate it all to them? And I think it's become way easier now with SEO integrations in CMSs, whatever, and also it's a bit more word from Google on what impacts what on the website. So it's way easier. But for me, it's always been relationship building and figuring out what motivates them.
Very everybody.
Yeah, I have a notorious example where I was presenting my findings in a Zoom call to a client, and the lead dev was in the call as well. And he counted me on a specific point, and I was maybe lacking emotional intelligence in my response, and I was a bit of a dick. Anyway, the call went on, and we went to the audit, and then the CEO wanted to show me something, so he started sharing his screen. He didn't realize he had a Slack channel open where that lead dev had just messaged him saying, "This guy is a dick." I actually still want that on a t-shirt. But he was fair. I was being a dick, but I was also right. But that also taught me something, that if you want to get stuff done, don't be a dick. And I think in the past, and sometimes even now, I come across as maybe too forceful and too sure of myself. And sometimes we need to look at the context in which we make these recommendations, because I am an SEO guy with a big SEO hammer. So for me, everything looks like an SEO nail. But I've learned that there's a lot of other moving pieces in an organization that have very different goals, very different objectives. And you sort of have to weigh these things up and see. And I think I've gotten better at providing the context of a recommendation, where I say, well, this would be an ideal scenario for SEO, but it might hurt your commercials, or it might hurt usability, or it might have another impact on another aspect of the website. And I think if you frame recommendations or best practices in that context, you actually end up getting them done more often than not, because they realize that you realize there's other stuff happening, but you still make that recommendation knowing that the other stuff is happening. So it's probably worthwhile doing the recommendation. Whereas if you just say, oh, you need to get this shit done right now, that's just not going to fly. So.
And question to the audience, are you finding that working with devs is, so green for is easier and blue for not easier? Okay, that's probably like 90% easier. I'm finding that really interesting. I can see someone in the audience who's like, So yeah, I think that's really interesting. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Let's go on to squad goals. So here's the scenario. You need to assemble a squad for a new project. You need to get your crew together. It might be people within your team. It might be freelancers. It might be a co-agency. It might be whoever that you're thinking of. What are the things that you're looking for in a new collaborator, and how do you know like that this is the match for you, or where is it swipe right or swipe left? No is swipe left. Is that right? I don't know. I don't do them, but okay. So can we start with you? How do you know like that like this is a good match? We can collaborate. This is going to be a good setup.
I'm actually doing this at the moment. So as a freelancer, I'm trying to build a network of people in other channels, like I had with the agency setup. And I guess I'm doing my own EAT evaluation of them. So I'm looking at all of their engagement. So not just on their website to say what they've done, but their recommendations on LinkedIn, see if they're legitimate, and then talking to them and looking at case studies, anything like that, and the work history. This is really revealing, so if they're listening to it. So trying to figure out, because as you know, even when hiring people on the agency side, it's really hard to, drill down the people that got real experience. So trying to do that evaluation and then chatting to them and then just starting with a small project. So something that I can get them to chip in on with a small amount of budget and see how they do. And for me, it's important to see the results, but also their personality and if I can work well with them and if they're reasonable and flexible to a point. So that's kind of how I do it.
And the personality part for me is very important. Beyond the skills, there are lots of people who are very good skills, and that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be working well with them. Mm-hmm. So for me, being aware of my own personality, I might be a little bit intense, just to say, my Spanish blood. So when I have an idea, I want to go after the idea, but I know that I need to have someone who calms me down. So having someone that is the contrary of me in my team is going to be better for the project. Right. So I look for that. I look for someone who's a doer because I'm a dreamer. Okay. So I want to do this. I want to do it now. Everyone focus. I need someone who actually will do it, because then if I don't put the time into do the thing, then it won't happen. So I need someone who is a realistic, someone who is a doer, and someone who also has visibility of everything. So independently of the skill sets that everyone has, which is important, I also need to have all of this. But there are also core attitudes that are very important for me, which is honesty. I prefer someone that tells me you are a dickhead, Carmen. Sorry, I said the word. I didn't realize. But I prefer someone who is honest to me, that actually says yes, and nothing comes out. Right. And I prefer I judge people on actions and not words. So if someone delivers what they say they do, and they tell me if this is feasible or not, I'm definitely going to be working with them. Right. So core attitudes and people who have different personalities is for me what makes a team work well.
Amazing. Yeah, I think hiring for complementary skills, for the gaps that you have, and also being aware of those gaps that you have is really important.
Which is actually not that common, like doing this self-analysis of, okay, who am I? Because maybe I think I'm perfect, but not really. So being aware of the things that you are good at and you are not as good at is very good. It's very important for you to build a good team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with those points. I will also say, like, if you're trying to build a team, going back to the soccer analogy, you don't want a team full of strikers, right? And also you don't want a team full of keepers, like goalkeepers, right? So you want to diversify. So I would say choose people with different backgrounds. Don't underestimate the value of diversity when you're choosing a team, because they'll have different perspectives, they'll have different backgrounds, different ways of thinking. So that can only make your team stronger.
And Barry?
I haven't worked in a team for a very long time. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think I enjoy that part of it. I've never been a real people person, to be entirely honest. I do find the clients that I enjoy working with the most are the ones who, I don't know how to describe that common denominator, but they're all, in one way or another, extremely good at their job.
Right.
And know exactly what they want from external parties.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I get to be that external party.
Right.
I find a very educational project, so I learn as much from the client as the client hopefully learns from me. And I think that's hard to select for. Either somebody has that passion and is that good at their job, or they're not.
Right.
But there's clients who bring me along whenever they move job. Like they work at one publisher and then a few years later they move to a different publisher and I get to work with them again in a different context. But it's still just a really pleasant collaboration, because you get to know each other's ins and outs and know exactly what they're good at and how you can complement their skill set.
Right.
So
yeah, that's awesome. And I have a question to the squad as well, or to the squad here. Also, if you're in the back, you can come in. There's spaces. There are spaces. That's totally fine. Please do come in. Yeah. So one of the things that we've been finding across our teams is that when we're thinking about these things, one of the things you mentioned, Suk, was that sometimes when you're trying to hire, it's hard to tell which skills people have. Question to the audience: when you're thinking about either hiring or collaborating or whichever with folks, are you finding that AI, people using AI, is a help or a hindrance? Are you finding that like people with AI profiles, or are you finding that people are having AI in their CVs? Are you finding that help is a help or hindrance? So green for help and blue for hindrance on that. Okay, we got a lot of blue for about 50-50 there. So that's very interesting. I think that I think that goes back to one of the points from Carmen that you'd rather know where somebody's limits are in terms of their skills, for sure, rather than somebody faking it till they make it necessarily. We are tight on time, so I'm going to move to the next section, which kind of covers that, which is awkward conversations. So when you're working with partners, also like the partners are also teams, Barry. So when you're working with partners, when you're working with clients, when you're working across your team, when you're working as part of a collaborative SEO venture, sometimes there's awkward conversations. Like sometimes somebody takes credit for something that you're pretty sure was you. And I get a bit upset about that because I'm like, that's my gold star. Thank you very much. Or sometimes you're working with a client and they say, hey, we want to bring in this other agency. And you're like, who are they? You can see somebody shaking their head. Okay. So actually I saw a little bit of reaction to that. So another question to the audience. Okay. So the client is on the phone with you and they say, hey, I like to get this other agency involved. Are you is and green for this is good, or blue for I don't know on that? Okay, that's mostly blue. Okay. One more second. This is George. So that's mostly blue. That's my gut instinct. My gut instinct is why? Like, why do you need somebody else? But yeah, other people in the panel, how do you feel about these conversations when this happens?
I was trying to think of a good example because, yeah, it's difficult. I guess early on in the career, I struggled to figure out how to. I used data basically to say, oh, but you can see by the last report, like, oh, we're hitting your KPIs or this, that, and the other. And if we're not, I'm like, boss, what can we do about this kind of thing? And then obviously I kind of learned, to look at, so basically always using the KPIs as like the goal in the reports and trying to like develop that customer relationship where I can kind of tell ahead of time, hopefully, if they're thinking of doing that. And I've been in that situation early in my career a few times where it came down to them deciding between us and the other agency based on maybe trivial things as well, like like price, obviously not trivial, but like other things like the last 2 reports had an error on it or something like that. And so I'd always try to plan from that point in advance to say, okay, I'm not going to make any mistakes and I'll make sure all the communications are on point. and even look out for cues like, oh, you're not happy with this and that, or something bad happened a few times in a row. Maybe they're going to look at another agency. And obviously, if an email pops up on Google Analytics or something as a user, I think, oh crap, someone's doing an audit or something. So I try and future-proof that. But if I was confronted with that combo, I'd kind of fall back on the data, but also hopefully use the relationship that we'd built up by that point to say, look, what's going on? Like, I'll be completely honest with you. You can be honest with me. You know, this didn't go too well. This went okay. Here's our actual strengths and weaknesses. And I learned that from my old boss as well, and Stanley, where she was really honest with people to say, oh, like, this is what we're good at about it. And they appreciated that and say, oh, actually, we'll stick with you. Going back to your point, Carmen, on honesty, like, oh, we actually trust these guys. So maybe they can help us find a good PR person or whatever, because they've got that gap in the team at the moment. So a bit of a long answer on that one.
No, actually, I was going to I agree with you 100%. And having been in the client side, so having been a client myself and now working in agency, one of the things that I see as a negative when I see in an agency is when someone tries to bullshit me. If you are trying to bullshit me with whatever, I'm going to say another bad word, crap, then the trust is broken. So I think for me, the most important part when building relationship is being able to have the hard conversations at the very beginning.
Right.
If you don't have the hard conversations, trust breaks. And if trust breaks, you're going to have a competitor coming in. And that is actually your own fault. Sorry for being scared. And I know that it takes guts to be able to have the hard conversations, because it's scary. If you are a freelancer particularly, you might even lose the food on your plate. But it's building that relationship, in my opinion, will make your clients defend you even if you are not meeting the KPI. So always building relationships with trust, even if things go wrong, I think is the way, because in the end, we're all humans. And if we get attached to people that are honest to us and we're honest to them, then they're going to defend us more. So in the end, it's having a good relationship with people and being human. I think is I don't get scared when they bring other people, even being honest, of course. But yeah, I think that's my recommendation.
Yeah. What you see?
I think, yeah, my sort of knee-jerk reaction is, why would they bring in someone? But at the same time, if you think about it, it's really the client's right to have a second opinion. Like, we do it all the time with, like, doctors, for example. Like, if you want a second opinion from another doctor, you know, because your health is on the line, right? This client's website health is on the line. So yeah, it's their right to bring in a second opinion. So in that sense, like, I think I'm more okay with it, especially if that other agency kind of proves my point, you know? So it's more of like an opportunity to do that.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I had this exact thing actually happen to me, where I was brought in to do a specific piece of work for a client, and they told me, oh, there's another agency who's also doing the exact same piece of work. So no pressure, Barry. And I was a little bit like, well, this was a fairly big, well-known agency, and I'm just a freelancer with, sitting in a dinky office in Belfast. So I was feeling the pressure, and I felt a bit like, oh crap, I really need to be on my A game here. But that actually motivated me to do a really, really good job, which I hope I would have done anyway, to be entirely honest. And it turned out that what that other agency presented and what I presented had slightly different angles and complemented each other really, really well, and gave the client the whole holistic view that they were looking for. So that turned out to be a fantastic project for the client, as well as for both the other agency and for me. So, I mean, I suck at awkward conversations in general. I think most of us don't like those. I fully agree with what was said before. Honesty is always the best approach there as well. And just try not to shy away from, saying the hard things that sometimes need to be said.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, but definitely something to think about. Okay, so we're going to move on to another section. In the podcast, we sometimes have a fun game I like to play. Fun with people also ask. So we can do this with everyone on the audience and also everyone on the panel as well. So this is the first question from people also ask. So green for yes and blue for no. Do social links help SEO? We have mostly green. I have some blue. And Google keeps going back and forth, being like, oh, it's not a big deal. Yes, it is a big deal. Like, you're flipping around. Thanks. Any opinions on this?
Yeah, correlation, not causation.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any 2 cents on that particular one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the indirectly,
Okay.
but a safe bet.
Okay.
I think, the visibility of the content and all that. Yeah, the more people see your content, they give you legit links and all that. So,
okay. So kind of, sort of. Okay. All right. Okay. Here's another one. The same sort of thing. So green for yes, and blue for no. Is social media marketing off-page SEO? It's in the same sort of area. Would you call it the same? People are like, I don't know about this question at all. I've got a lot of blue. Absolutely no. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Any opinions on that? It's a similar question to the one before, if I'm completely honest. No? Okay, we'll move on. Okay. People also ask, which is harder, SEO or PPC? So I'm going to go, we have intakes of breath from the audience here. Okay, so we have green for SEO and blue for PPC. I
think we're biased.
Look by your audience.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I actually think advertising is harder than SEO nowadays.
What?
I really do think so.
But AI does everything for you in PPC, so...
AI could do everything for you in SEO.
That's true.
And you end up in the same end result, everything being quite shit. No, I think...
Very read the room.
Yeah, I know. I know I'm Brighton SEO and I'm an SEO guy, but the paid advertising landscape nowadays, I mean, my goodness, the technology stacks and the targeting, I'm not an ad guy, but I talk to ad people and like, I really don't want that job. But they spend more money every year and they get less and less back for it. Whereas with SEO, I think we're still on a growth curve. With advertising, the margins are narrower, and it's becoming really, really hard to have success in advertising.
I think there's more pressure as well in PPC. Like you need to be reporting on a weekly basis. You need to be checking all the data constantly. But I also think that there are lots of people applying the same rules to SEO that PPC these days. So the pressure is coming. It really depends. It really depends how you look at it. If you do SEO properly, I think it's more difficult, but a little bit chiller, like less pressure.
Okay.
Depends.
And just to say, these are all actual people also ask questions. So yeah. Okay. So this is a just a little shout out to the grammatical grammatical incorrections. I did it myself. To the grammar that you see, and people also ask, is digital PR a SEO? So green for yes and blue for no. I got a lot of green, and then some. So I'd probably say that's like 75-ish. This is with my ballpark sort of thing. I find digital PR really fascinating. There's some really interesting campaigns. I kind of think though it's kind of just campaign marketing, if I'm completely honest. I kind of think it covers the same. Do other people have varied?
Yeah, it's its own beast because I used to partner with a colleague that did pure content and PR, digital PR, and she was like really good at it because there's so many aspects of it. The journalist relationship, knowing what stuff they need in a brief and all that, finding the story and that loads of data, and like just from doing ideation sessions with her and other elements of the team, just to throw ideas out there, she'd be able to structure a story and find it like way easier. And so there was a lot of upskilling involved on my part to figure out, okay, how can I build links like this? And it's just a case of, well, to what Barry said before that, you kind of know what your strengths are and specialize in that and recognize it in other people. And so that's why I'm trying to partner with digital PRs as well to fill that link building gap.
I mean, it was a digital PR and we did everything with SEO in our heads. So I will say yes, because we were using the SEO strategy to follow and create the links. Obviously, it's beyond just simple SEO. It also depends on how you see SEO. I see digital PR as part of organic and SEO is part of organic. So it depends of your definition of SEO, but I will say it is. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so we're moving on to the next one. This is specifically for the live podcast session. This is the one that I like. This is a section. These are, again, actual predictive text from Google. And this one is for the predictive text for Can You Learn SEO, which is can you learn SEO by yourself, right? I know a lot of people. Oh, I got somebody up already. So from the audience, green for yes, blue for no. Very interesting. So that's lots and lots of green. I've got a little bit of no or a little bit of blue. So I'd probably say that's probably like 90-ish% saying yes. And I think this is interesting. So like, Barry, you're close to the microphone, so I'm going to come to you. What are the advantages or disadvantages of being a self-taught SEO?
As a self-taught SEO and one who teaches SEO now, I wish there were courses in SEO when I first learned it.
Right.
The best learning environment that I learned as a self-taught SEO was become part of an SEO community where you could ask questions, where there was no stupid questions, basically, where you could just ask anything. That for me was a real breakthrough moment when I think I really embraced SEO and really started to learn it. So self-taught, yes, but still self-taught within a community. I think you will need to have people around you to ask these questions. I don't think there's such a thing as a completely self-taught SEO, because you always learn from other people who are willing to share information, answer your questions. And I think if you're an experienced SEO, you should see it as maybe part of your remit to pass that on to others and be generous with your time and your knowledge and allow people to ask those questions, because realistically, that's how you learned it as well.
Yeah. I was going to say I learned by myself, but really it wasn't by myself, because I went to the internet, I asked people, I tested things on my own, and I put the results on forums that people replied to me. So really, is it? Yeah, I didn't have a teacher and I didn't learn at university, but I had a whole community, which I think is one of the most beautiful things of the SEO industry, is the community that we have. So it can, but it's not on your own.
Yeah, the community is great now, because when I started, there wasn't really much of that, and also no SEO courses at university anyway. So I'd have to do a couple of smaller courses, and then mostly learnt in the agency environment. And also, funnily, I was talking to a colleague of mine who didn't go to uni, and we both worked at the first agency I did in 2010. And straight out of college, he just gone in internship and doing SEO. And now he's headed a big department. He's doing really well. Didn't have to pay any of his uni fees and all that stuff. And so he saved with all of that, and he just learned on the job. Pretty much what I did, because I did a web design course and I quit web design to do SEO. And I just thought that's a perfect example of being able to learn in that environment as an internship, or if someone just gives you a chance and you just slowly build up your salary according to how much you learn, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I took you to jump in a little. Okay. Next one. Okay, so the next one, this I thought was interesting. So if you type in like what is SEO in, you get a lot of different things. So it's like, what is SEO in marketing? What is SEO in business? What is SEO in YouTube? What is SEO in web development? What is SEO in social media? What is SEO in journalism? What is SEO in Etsy? Okay, so my question is that, do you find that SEO is different in these different spaces, or do you think SEO is SEO? So green for SEO is SEO is SEO, and blue for SEO is different in these different spaces. Interesting. Okay, so we have like probably 70% people saying that SEO is different in all these different spaces. I think that's really interesting. And I think to the panel, my question is like, do you think that clients understand that there are differences in these spaces?
Clients don't understand SEO. So let alone in all the different channels. The amount of times I have to fight because I cannot get them to rank number one in 1 week is just mental. So no, I don't think they understand the difference. But I also think SEO is SEO. Okay. So the point is you get your content to be visible to users, and users engage with it, and that applies to chat, to YouTube, to Google, to TikTok, to wherever you do. So I think SEO is always the same, but it's done in different ways.
Yeah. I was thinking about it in terms of the definition of SEO versus an SEO job spec, and to see if there's any like correlation. And 9 times out of 10, because I was looking at job specs, I was like, oh, there's way more things people are asking for versus what you would define as SEO typically, which is weird, because I've always had a problem with SEO as a term, because I thought, well, is it more like organic marketing? But then you can't say organic marketing because then clients aren't aware really what that is, and they think, oh, I'm just going to go with the SEO. So I think it's something that we're stuck with in terms of a term for like lead generation, whatever. But really, I think it's way more than what you define as SEO.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If we're talking about semantics, SEO is just search engines for search engines, right? But as you said, like, are we talking about organic search or like just organic anything? Then yeah, I mean, I think it can be diversified into all these different spaces.
Actually, I'm talking tomorrow about that. If anyone wants to come to my talk, it's not SEO. Let's talk about organic. So
yeah,
Nice.
Go to
Self-promotion.
Carmen. When's your talk?
When?
Yeah.
3.
3:00. Go see Carmen.
I think.
Okay.
Auditorium 1, just find me. I'm the only Carmen, I think.
Okay. Very. Is SEO or is SEO different?
I think I agree with what Carmen said earlier. It's still SEO, but the tactics are different.
Okay.
When I do SEO for news websites, you cannot apply the same tactics as you do for e-commerce. But in the end, it is about getting your content in front of an audience that uses an organic search engine. So, yeah.
Agreed. Okay, finally, we have another section. So I looked up digital marketers need, and this is and Google changed it to digital marketing needs, and it said digital marketing needs coding, digital marketing needs degree, digital marketing needs math, digital marketing needs a laptop, which I thought was interesting. Does digital marketing need a degree? And I think this is interesting because I've heard people say that you cannot be a technical SEO or you can't be an SEO if you don't know HTML or you don't know how to code. I've heard people say, you can't be a marketer without a degree. I've heard people say that sort of thing. And so I'm interested in this idea of gatekeeping. So here's a question to the audience. So the last question of the day and thank you so much for joining us for this session. Do you think there is one way to be a digital marketer? Green for yes and blue for no. That is 100% no. People listening on the internet, there are many ways to become a digital marketer. I have an English literature degree, and I've worked in marketing my entire life. And I know somebody else who's a fantastic SEO, and his degree is in anthropology, and he's amazing. and things. So I think that there's many ways to be an SEO, a digital marketer. What are your thoughts on that, panel?
Yeah, my degree was in multimedia computing, so it didn't really specialize in anything, coding, bit of 3D, whatever. And then I did web design for 4 years and then quit. And then there was a credit crunch and then I changed careers. Let me try something different, no jobs anymore. And so, yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Learning from scratch and I just found my way to SEO. I completely lost my train of thought.
It's all good.
It's almost finished as well.
Took a new journey.
I think I know where you're trying to go. Like I am a translator. I never studied marketing. I didn't know what marketing was when I got into it. But I knew that what I needed to do is someone to read my content. So I did as a translator, I needed someone to read my content. As a journalist, you need someone to read your content. So in the end, that is what you want to do as a digital marketing. You need to convince your user to read your content. Basically, yes, there is one way to be a digital marketer, which is making sure that you engage with the user and the user comes to you. How do you do that? There are thousands of other ways to do it. But the clarity is, what is the purpose of digital marketing? And I think it's always the same. Get your users to come to you. And I guess it doesn't matter where you come from, right? You can come from computing, you can come from, I don't know, cleaning windows. As long as you know that you need to get your user, you are a digital marketer.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to that. Yeah, I fell into it from designing websites and I wanted to know what the websites can do after you produce them. Yeah. And then also from necessity as well. And I thought, okay, there's a whole different new career that's blowing up. And a few of my mates were doing it outside of uni who did do elements of SEO in their courses. And I thought, let me just try that out. But it's definitely led on from web design and necessity, just for me,
I used to work in fashion in New York, so completely different industry. Right. I did that for about 10 years, and then I just switched one day. I was like, I want to do something else, and here I am. So I think exactly, marketers can come from anywhere, really. I'm reminded of Ratatouille. Anyway, yeah.
And this is the point where I admit I don't have a degree. I never finished uni. I started working in a call center 2 years after I started uni and decided that learning that was not for me, was way too hard. Became an IT guy, server management, and somehow found myself managing a server farm that had intranet pages on it. Right. And then because I hacked together my own website in my spare time, I knew a bit of HTML. My boss asked me, can you change what's on the web servers? And that's how the whole ball just started rolling, basically. And I think in the podcast we did a while ago with SERP, we talked about how people get into a career in digital and in search, we discussed this as well. No matter what your skill set is, what your passion is, there is a role for you in digital and in search. If you're analytical, great. If you're not, but you're very creative, great. If you just like writing stuff, great. If you're a total tech nerd, great. There's always a job role that really suits your skill set and that can really give you fulfillment and achievement within your career. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It's what you do with it, really.
Yes. And on that motivational note, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for this episode of SERP's Up. Okay.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.